On this episode of Rock Down South, we chat with Matt James from the rock band Blacktop Mojo. We talk about the band's interesting sound and even got a couple of acoustic songs for you. We hope y'all enjoy. Let's go. Thank you so much for joining us for another exciting episode of Rock Down South, a show where my friends and I chat with musical artists and ask them the questions we want to know about. We hope you all enjoy this interview we did with Matt James from the rock band Blacktop Mojo. For those of y'all who don't know, Blacktop Mojo is a super cool band from a small town in East Texas called Palestine. They have 3 albums out, released an EP last year, and have a new album on the way this summer. We had the pleasure of speaking with the lead singer of that band, Matt, and we cover some interesting topics. We talk about their signature Texas Grunge sound, their new album coming out, a funny story about the worst show they've ever played, and of course, the viral cover song that racked up millions of views. We also got a couple of acoustic songs for you as well. So without further ado, here's the interview. What's up, Matt? How you been, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing really good, man. I can't complain. Thank you so much for jumping on here today.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you having me.
Excellent. So before we get into things, for our listeners who do not know, Matt James is the lead singer of the band. So how long have you been doing this now?
We started the band. Our first official show was in December of 2012. So coming up on 10 years.
Oh, wow. Does it feel like 10 years at this point?
No, not at all. That was kind of the first iteration of the band. We were playing in bars, and it was just me and Nathan, our drummer, started the band. And since then, we're the only 2 original members, and then kind of everybody else has changed out. And I'd say we've been a touring band is kind of more when we started going full time and everything since 2016. So
nice. And you're originally from Texas, right?
Yeah, that's correct, man.
Awesome. And so where are you guys located now? Are you still in Texas, or have you moved somewhere else like Nashville or Los Angeles?
Yeah, we're actually still in Texas. We live in this little town called Palestine. It's about halfway between Dallas and Houston. If you go down the 45, down the major highway there, and just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. But it ended up working out when we were starting a band because it's kind of central to Dallas or Houston. I mean, it's pretty much the same distance to drive. You got 2 hours to Dallas, 2 hours to Houston, 3 hours or so to Austin. So like, there's not a whole lot of rock clubs, where we're at. So we kind of had to go to all these different places to pick up shows and practice playing live and being in front of people,
It's super cool that you guys are still in Texas, still doing it, and all live under one roof. That's pretty groovy.
Yeah, man. Everybody's kind of growing up here lately. Our drummer got married in January, and he moved out with his wife, of course, because they don't want a married couple living in the band house. And then one of our guitar players, Kiefer, he's actually getting married in May, so it'll just be me and Kat left in the band house here, and Chuck also lives with his old lady, but he lives probably 2 minutes down the street, and we're all still really close and everything, proximity wise and friendship wise and everything. But everybody's we're kind of in this weird transitional phase where everybody's kind of growing up and doing adult things.
I mean, transition's always good, but it sounds like you guys all still want to call Texas your home, and you probably have a lot of pride about that.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. It's kind of cool traveling around. Everybody knows Texans have a lot of pride in where they come from. And like, it doesn't matter where in the country we go. It's just like people associate, Texas with guns and cowboy boots and stuff like that. And which we do shoot guns and wear cowboy boots. So it kind of works out,
Well, that's cool. Speaking of Texas, you guys consider yourselves Texas Grunge, right?
Yeah, that was a term that somebody made up in an interview, and we just kind of latched onto it. We thought it sounded pretty cool. Like it's kind of like our own little way to describe the way we sound. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was checking out some of your merch, and you guys had Texas Grunge somewhere. I was like, I've never heard that term before, but
It's made up.
It totally describes you guys.
Well, I appreciate that, man.
I mean, it's an interesting sound that you guys have, mix of hard rock, southern rock, post grunge, and a little bit of heavy metal thrown in there. But I wouldn't say it's like overly southern rock or overly hard rock or heavy metal or overly grunge. It's kind of this interesting spot between it all, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, I definitely agree with you there. We kind of pull from every direction, man. Especially on this new album we got coming up. Probably be releasing it this summer, and I would say that no two songs on the album are alike for sure. There's a lot of, like what you said, post grunge, southern rock, country. A little bit of influence from everywhere.
Yeah, and let's talk about the latest release that you guys had, the Static EP. That song, The End, that one is super, super freaking heavy.
Yeah.
It's got some really, really aggressive vocals. Don't get me wrong, I've listened to all your music, but I felt like the vocals on that were maybe a little bit more aggressive at times than usual.
Sure.
Am I wrong?
Sure. Yeah. It was definitely just a lot of yelling, man. It was written right after a breakup. I mean, it was kind of the first verse and chorus were literally just kind of made up on the spot, and that's just what came out of my mouth. So it really captured just the emotion of what I was going through at the time, and which was, anger and aggression and breakup stuff.
I like that track a lot. It's a fun track.
Yeah, man.
It really, really kind of opens up that EP.
It's fun to play live, man.
So what was the idea of releasing that EP? I know it was kind of in between these albums that are coming out. Was that something you guys were just wanting to give something else to your fans? Was it just, a gift during COVID kind of things? What was kind of the thinking behind putting out the EP at the time?
It was a little bit of all that. We when we wrote and recorded our third record, Under the Sun, we had those 4 songs kind of left over, and they didn't really fit on the album. We didn't feel like they fit vibe wise. They all kind of had this gloomy kind of, I don't know, it just didn't quite jive with the rest of the songs, and we just had them sitting there, and when the world shut down last year, it was kind of like, oh, it'd be cool to just have something to put out and to give to everybody, and it ended up being those 4 songs.
Well, certainly glad you guys put some music out during a pandemic, because we definitely all want more music. I know a lot of artists have been pushing their albums back to, either late 2021 or 2022 so they can tour it. And I understand that, but it was nice to get some more music in the midst of everything.
Yeah, man. It was nice to be able to have a creative outlet, when we're just sitting and kind of everything seems stagnant and not moving, and kind of just waiting for the go ahead,
So let's talk about the new album that you've been working on. When do you think we might be hearing maybe a single or something pop from it? When's this new album about to come out?
So the tentative release date is late July, and then we're talking about putting out 2 singles before the release of the album. So it'll be in the next few months here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
If you're going to kind of sum up, maybe give us a little teaser of the album, is this going to be any departure from your previous kind of work? Is anything changed? Or is it the more Blacktop Mojo that we know and love?
I think it is definitely a little bit of a departure from the stuff that we've done in the past. We definitely used some instrumentation that we haven't used before, tried some different things stylistically, and I'm really excited about this album because I don't think any 2 songs are alike on the album. I think if you like some of the heavier stuff that we do, there's some of that. If you like some of the softer stuff that we do, there's some of that. And then there's everything in between,
Oh, super cool. We cannot wait to hear some of this new music, especially you saying it's maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what people say about it. It's going to be interesting.
And change is good. Change is good, in my opinion, when it comes to bands. A lot of people say, oh, we don't want our band to change because we like the way they are. But, you might like the new stuff. Who knows?
Yeah. And they could always make more records, and get back to that thing you love. But I'm always a big fan of fans that try to get outside that comfort zone for an album or 2. And it might not be your favorite thing, but it's kind of cool just to see, what creative direction somebody might go.
Well, of course, you're going to have people dogging you on both sides. If you don't evolve your music, people are going to say, oh, it's the same stale stuff.
Yeah.
And then if you evolve, people are like, oh, I like the old, the stuff from 5 years ago. That was the real band.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think the only band that can make the same record over and over and it be amazing every time is AC/DC. So,
Yeah, I was just thinking that. So, Matt, what kind of music are you listening to lately?
I've been listening to a lot of old soul stuff, man. Some Sam Cooke, Bill Withers, Sly and the Family Stone, and there's a newer band called the Black Pumas that I've been listening the heck out of their stuff. I think they just put out a new album that I haven't got to listen to yet, but yeah, man, just some good old soul stuff to make you feel good.
Very cool. So when it comes to your style of music, I listen to a lot of Southern rock, a lot of hard rock, and a lot of bands that do the Southern and hard rock thing. It's quite interesting how you guys throw the grunge in there as well, because that's not really done as much. Are you guys just raised on grunge? What was kind of that reason to inject the grunge sound in there?
We all listen to different kinds of music, man, but I think where we find our common ground between all of us is like the Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Pearl Jam, and the Candlebox and all the bands from that Seattle grunge era. We all just really dig that stuff, and that's still permeates all of our playlists, and I still listen to it all the time.
So it kind of permeates through to the music that you write. That's interesting.
Yeah, man, I think you can't be listening to anything all the time without having it influence you a little bit when you're writing your own stuff.
So who's your favorite big artist that you've toured with? Anything come to mind? Any stories that come to mind?
We did get open up for Bon Jovi. We won a contest back in 2016 and got to play with Bon Jovi at American Airlines Center. It was a big arena show. And up to that point, we'd only played in front of about 200 people. So that night we got to play in front of about 20,000 people. So that show's definitely burned in my mind for forever.
Oh, wow.
We got to do a couple of short runs with Blackstone Cherry, and I've always been a fan of their band since their first record. And so getting to tour with them was pretty surreal. And they're all really nice down to earth dudes to run around with.
We love those guys. We did an interview with Ben from that band recently.
Yeah, Ben's awesome, man. He's got that new clothing company.
Surf Monster.
Yeah, that Surf Monster. Yeah, he's got some cool stuff. Need to get me some of that.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about your famous cover that you guys did, Dream On by Aerosmith. I'm sure it comes up on every single interview that you do. But what was your reaction to the success of that song when you put it out as a cover?
It was pretty unexpected, to be honest with you. We put it out probably a year before we went in to record our Burn the Ships record, which is the record we ended up putting on. And it just kind of sat out there for a little bit, and it would get a bunch of views all at once, and then kind of slow down, a bunch of views all at once. And then at some point it just kind of took off and, developed a life of its own, and it started getting shared everywhere. So by the time we were recording the new record, it hit like 1 million views, and it was our first video to ever do that. So we were like, man, we should maybe think about putting it on the album and hopefully get people to listen to some of our original stuff too, And we ended up doing that, and it's been fun, man. It's been cool, People yell it out at shows, and it's cool to see somebody's face light up when you play a song that they yell out,
That's super cool. How many views does that video have right now?
I think it's maybe 20 million.
Oh my gosh.
On YouTube, man. Something like that.
Oh my gosh, 20 million. That is quite a lot.
Yeah, man, it's pretty crazy.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. It's a great cover. I'm glad you guys did it. You guys really killed it on that one, as you guys have been told. That one's a good one. So if you have not listened to any Blacktop Mojo and you're listening to this, definitely check out the Dream On cover, and I guarantee you're going to want to run and listen to more Blacktop Mojo right after that.
Yeah, appreciate that, man.
So here's an interesting question for you. You may or may not have ever been asked this, but what is the worst show that you've ever played? Maybe it was a bad performance you had, a bad crowd, a small crowd, or maybe just a strange venue situation. What's something that comes to your mind?
Oh man. We've had a little bit of all of that, but the first show that popped into my mind when you asked that question was back when we first started the band. And we were playing at this club down in Huntsville, Texas, called the Jolly Fox, which is kind of like a historic club. It's been there since the 70s, and they used to do live music all the time. But we had played a few shows there, and we became really good friends with the owner and all the people that ran it. And they had this restaurant like across town where they would take the bands before the show. And of course, there was many drinks served, just tray after tray after tray of shots. And I remember going to the restaurant, but I do not remember going back to the venue. And the next thing that I do remember was coming to kind of my memory kicks back in, about 3 songs into our set. So it was pretty sloppy, to say the least, which is, a hard lesson learned. Don't don't go overboard with the partying before the show. But we were a young band at the time, and I was in my early 20s. So I mean, I was 21 at the time probably. So everybody makes dumb decisions when they're 21, and yeah. So that's probably the worst performance probably that I can remember. And then me and Nathan got into one of those classic, VH1 Behind the Music, like damn near got in a fist fight, talking,
On stage?
No, luckily not on stage. No, after the show, but we're brothers fight,
Of course. Anything revolving a weird crowd that you might remember, or small crowd, or strange venue?
There's definitely been a lot of small crowds. There was this weird place that we played in West Virginia that we played twice, and there was nobody there. Like the first time we came through was our very first tour, and there were some shows where 10 people would show up or something like that. But this show, like the radio station had promoted the hell out of it, and it's a college town, and like there just didn't seem to be any reason why nobody wouldn't show up, and we're just like, damn, are we that bad? I mean, and then the owners was like, oh yeah, this happens sometimes, and we'll have you back, and then we came back the next time, and it happened again. So then we were basically, it's one of those shows where you're just playing to the sound guy and the bartenders and the one guy from the radio station that shows up, he got a little private show,
I wonder if they're still open for business.
I don't know, man. I can't remember the name of the place off the top of my head, but yeah, it was a strange night, but you get used to it if you're touring, and especially when you're just starting touring and you haven't been out to those places before, so there's nobody. Ideally you go out and there's 10 people the first time you go play, and then the next time you show up there's 20 or 30 people, and then so on and so forth, where you're coming through and you're able to pack the place out. So that's to be expected, but sometimes you play those empty rooms and you just kind of like, oh well, paid practice, I guess.
All right, and now we got a couple of acoustic tracks for y'all. These are both off of Blacktop Mojo's latest album titled Under the Sun. This first one is called It Won't Last. I think y'all will like it.
Left in the bottle. You know it's good for you now. It won't be easy tomorrow. And what kind of man would I be if I didn't hold you? Just no girl when I leave, oh baby, I told you. feel the silence as we stare at each other. I know we both had too much, but I could do with another. And darling, I'll stay as long as you let me. But you know I gotta go, so just try to forget me. Why can't it just stay the same? After this, it's all gonna change. Hurry now, darling, the morning's closing in fair. The best thing about this feeling is it won't last. Why can't it just stay the same? After this, it's all gonna change. Hurry now, darling, the morning's closing in fair. The best thing about this feeling is it won't last. It won't last.
Love that track. I think it's got that nice, chill, groovy vibe to it. The next one's going to be a little bit more on the rockin' and upbeat side, and this one is called The Void. Hope you all enjoy.
I'm burned out and it's no good. Head in the clouds, I got no room. Well, I was hoping that I'd have seen the light by now, before I end up coming down. And come stand down the edge with me. Do you feel the burn from beneath? And will you turn around and run away and feel on the world? Or will you enter the void when it comes? And skip a rock across the water, know it won't go on forever. We all sink to the bottom sometimes along the way, before they lay us in the clay. And come stand down the edge with me. Do you feel the burn from beneath?
Two fantastic tracks from the boys and Blacktop Mojo. And of course, Matt James always lays down killer vocals. Really enjoyed those two. Now, let's get back to the interview. All right. So these next questions are what we close with and ask everyone. So, first question: what would you tell your 21-year-old self? And it sounds like you already said something right before this.
Yeah, don't drink before the Jolly Fox show.
Don't drink too much.
Yeah. What would I tell my 21-year-old self? I don't know. Don't change a thing, because I like where we're at. I like the way that life's going, and there was mistakes along the way, but we learned a lot from them, and here we are,
Good answer. Good answer. So next question: what are you drinking lately? And if you don't drink alcohol, it could be anything refreshing that you like to drink.
I was actually sipping on some Uber Greens juice. I've been on the health train lately. Been trying to slim down. I had that quarantine 20 that everybody got from sitting around, and I've been kind of off the alcohol train here lately. So.
Very cool. Very cool. So as you know, this is the Rock Down South podcast, and we all live in the South. But what is something that you love about the South? And you can name off multiple things that come to mind as well.
Definitely just the warmth of everybody. I feel like everywhere you go in the South, everybody's very welcoming, and whether you're in a band or like doing this or not, like if you show up somewhere and you're like, oh, I'm from somewhere else, people are like, oh, well, welcome to the area, welcome to the city. Here's some cool stuff to do. It's definitely the people, the hospitality, being able to go out in the middle of a pasture and go shoot guns or do some fun stuff like that.
Fantastic. And so you mentioned that you have the new album going to be coming out, and maybe in the summer, you got some couple singles coming out. Do you have anything else in the works that you want people to know about?
We will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, back on the road in July and August. So be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. Lots more shows should be popping up.
Well, thank you so much, Matt, for being a part of the show today. Where can the people find and connect with you guys online and buy some merch?
Blacktopmojo.com. We actually, right now, all the merch on our website is a pre-order type of deal. We worked with a company called Pledge Music on our last couple albums, but they ended up going bankrupt. And so we decided to do kind of a pre-order thing where people could order the album way ahead of time, and it would help us raise the money for all the recording and mixing and promotion and all that kind of stuff. So all the stuff that we have on there right now is part of that. There's some cool stuff, getting your name on the liner notes or t-shirts, signed CDs, all that sort of stuff. So blacktopmojo.com. Social media, everything's just at Blacktop Mojo. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think we even have a TikTok now.
Thank you so much for listening to the show today. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We had a super fun time chatting with Matt. He's got such a powerful singing voice and makes some killer music. Definitely excited for new music they have on the horizon and seeing them live in the future. Make sure to follow Blacktop Mojo on all of their social media pages and give their latest album, Under the Sun, a listen, as well as their new Static EP. I think y'all will like those. Also, keep an eye out for new music as they plan on releasing some very soon. Check out all our content at rockdownsouth.com and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest updates. And as always, the views and opinions expressed by our guests on the podcast are theirs and don't necessarily reflect our own. I'm Mark, and you've been listening to Rock Down South. See y'all next time.